So the next topic is the change control. This is the only process among the 49 processes where the changes are reviewed. Meaning once a change has been raised, a request for change or a change request, it goes through this process compulsorily for its approval or for rejection or for deferral, meaning the request can be put on hold and delayed for some time also. So that's the purpose of this process. And project management, changes cannot be just allowed. There should not be corruption of the scope. It should be properly, if a requirement has to change, if it was already approved, then the change of requirement may impact something else. Yeah, therefore, or a change of solution can impact maybe the timeline or the budget. Therefore, all these have to be considered before a change can be approved. So let's look at this process of change management in some more detail. Okay. So we have these ITTO diagrams, which the ITTO diagrams, by the way, give us some awareness. It's not that we should stick to these diagrams. It basically gives us awareness on, it's just a logical understanding required here. Why do we need certain inputs? Do they serve a purpose? What does the process really do? What does it really create? For example, in change control, the real purpose of this process to approve a change. Therefore, we have approved change request as an output. And to do that, we need to think, what information do I need? So definitely we need a change request as a key input. While reviewing the change, we may have to understand the complete project performance at that point in time. How is the project progressing? If it is already going behind schedule, and if you're asking for further delay to extend the timeline, then it could be a bigger problem. So therefore, work performance report will be a key input. And the project plan is also a key input because particularly the change management plan, because it explains how the changes will be managed, how the change will be raised, how it will be reviewed, who will review it, and on what basis the approval will be given. What are the different types of changes, like urgent, not urgent, critical, and so on. All that can be defined in the change management plan. And because the changes can impact the baselines, either the agreed scope, schedule, or cost, therefore these also naturally become the inputs, key inputs. So these are some of the important, that's how we figure out these inputs and outputs. And I know that it may be difficult to remember each one of them, and particularly the techniques. Which technique do we use when? So look at the change control and think what technique you may need to assess changes. Can you think about that? So the question to all of you is, what kind of tools and techniques would you require for change control? Or how do we really do the change control? So let me pose that question. Let me open my notebook and write it down. Just give me a moment. Two questions. What tools and techniques may be required for handling changes? Secondly, how should changes be processed? What is the step-by-step process? These are the two questions. Yeah, thanks for starting the recording, by the way. Just give me a moment. So I've got some questions. Meanwhile, why do we have the work performance report as an input? So Venkatesh, I'll answer that shortly. And Bhuma, I took your point. Change control boards must be created. Yes, there should be some authority, a change authority or a change control board who can review the changes before they can be approved. Very good. And Ijaz has given this point by making team decisions. Yeah, sometimes we need to have a team decision on approving a change, particularly in agile projects. Normally they have a team decision for approving changes. Yeah? And Shadab has mentioned evaluation of a change request. Yes, perfect. Change has to be assessed, evaluated. have emergency cab, change advisory board. So different organizations use different terminology: change advisory board, change control board, change authority. All that can be used. Yeah. So a team can agree to a change process. Okay. With that, let's move on, and let's see what PMI is telling us. So first of all, we need a change, as I was telling you, and that will be approved or rejected or deferred or delayed. And we need the change management plan as a key input. The work performance reports is basically a complete story about the project. Let's say a client has come with a scope change request, or let's say a scope change request, adding some new features or requirement. We have to assess whether increasing the scope can impact anything else in the project. Will it impact the quality in the future? Will it impact the risks of the project? Will it impact the timeline or budget? And we can assess them properly only when the complete story is available to us at that point in time. That's why this report becomes a key input. And I think people do, whether you realize it or not, you may not be calling it a report, but when you sit in a meeting to discuss a change, people are actually looking at what is the current situation in the project. Oh, this project is already, very complicated and we are struggling with it. Let us not allow any changes. So in fact, what they have done is they looked at the work performance report to make that decision. And decisions, therefore, we have techniques like voting again to make decisions. Some people might say okay for the change. Some people might say, no, we are not okay for the change. So we need to take the votes here. Sometimes autocratic decision, a senior person might say, as per my order, this change should be rejected. So that's known as autocratic decision making. Single person is taking a decision, irrespective of the others' inputs. Sometimes they may use multiple criteria. They may look at the cost of a change, the ease of implementation of a change. Yeah. How much time will the implementation take? The different factors can be considered before a change is approved. These are the various ways. And a key tool and technique would be the change control tool themselves. Yeah? For example, a change form, a change request form is part of this change control tool. A workflow system. Let's say you're raising a change as a customer. It comes to me. Then I get notified about the request. Then I will approve it from my side. Then once I approve it, goes to maybe somebody else for second approval. So there should be some kind of a workflow system. So such a workflow system is known as a change control tool. Yeah. It keeps people informed about the status of changes. You can pull reports, maybe how many changes are still unapproved. It'll print a report. So that's all known as change control tools. Imagine what would happen if there are no change control tools available for us. Yeah? Meetings, discussions, again, the same story here. Look at various options, how to implement the change. Is there an easier way to implement? Is there a cheaper way to implement, economical way to implement? So that's why we have the very similar techniques in most of it. So whenever you have a control technique, process, you will usually find the same type of techniques coming up again and again. So if you can distinguish between planning techniques, controlling techniques, execution techniques, initiation techniques, closing techniques, it's good enough. Again, the techniques may again overlap between initiation and planning. For example, workshops, you can have planning workshops, you can have initiation workshop, you can have closing workshops. So there can be a lot of overlaps. And some other documents could also get updated. And let's look at some things here now. There's actually questions, another good question here, and that is question from Venkatesh is, can a checklist be used for change control? Why not? And that's where we are. Let's go into the actual change process itself. This is the actual process, and knowing this process will be very valuable for you during the exam, because you may have several questions on changes in the exam. It's an important topic. And I think, as some of you indicated, change has to be assessed. Therefore, you can use this also as a checklist. Yeah. So a change is raised by a stakeholder. Maybe they're adding some new features. And as soon as that comes, let's say I am the PM, you are the customer, I receive your request, I will do an impact analysis. Is the change going to affect my project quality or a timeline or the cost? So that kind of an impact analysis can be done. either I can do it alone or maybe as a team. A team approach is much better for doing the analysis. And eventually it should be passed to the change control board. This is the PMI's approach. It can be analyzed by somebody else before it comes to the board to save their work a little bit. But eventually the change control board should assess the change. It can be a change authority. So there could be different change control board depending on situation. For simple changes, you may have one change control board. For major changes, you may have another change control board. For extremely major changes, you may have the board of directors of the company, who will be the change control board. So that is allowed. You can have multiple boards also, depending on different types of changes, different categories. And eventually they're going to approve it. And look at this one. As soon as it is approved, we cannot implement. That is the last step. Before that, the plan must be updated. So if the scope change has led to a timeline extension, then first the schedule baseline must be updated. If the scope change has resulted in budgetary increase, then the cost baseline must be first updated and agreed, updated, as approved by this request, and then only we can implement the change. Okay, so that's why. So if you know this process, it's going to help you a lot. And I'm also going to add some more things. There's also one more step that will help you. Here there is one more step here, and also you will have one more step here. Here what I'm saying is, before implementing, I think it's a good idea to inform the stakeholders. Tell everybody, hey people, we are actually implementing a change tomorrow. There's been a scope addition, and tomorrow we are assigning this to a person who is going to implement the new feature in the product. So that should be informed to concerned stakeholders as a communication in between. And what is this line in between? Sometimes the change control board may not be enough. If there is a change to, let's say, a risk management plan, then change control board can okay it. But what if a baseline is changing? What if the scope baseline is changing, cost baseline is changing, and schedule baseline is changing? Then the customer must also approve it. So far, you don't see anywhere that the customer or sponsor has to approve. So this one will come in between. If the change is going to impact the baseline, particularly the scope, cost, or schedule, then customer or sponsor must also approve it. So therefore, that should come in between here. Unless the customer and sponsor are already part of the change control board. They're already part of the step anymore. But it is compulsory as per the PMI practice that any change to the baselines, not to the management plans, but particularly the baselines, must obtain approval from customer or sponsor, whoever they are. Could be one person, could be two different people. So that's a key thing about it.